Welcome to another podcast of the FitFam family. And this is Miss Olympia, Hilary.
And this is the Formulator, Doug.
And so this week is a really great week because it's special to us. It's the first pro bodybuilding competition of the year for Hilary. And Ashley's competing with you at this show.
That's exciting, yeah. And Nevaeh will be there. She has a client competing.
Absolutely.
So
and
that's
we're
cool.
getting ready for the Worlds, which is a few weeks later in London. But this is the first week in a while, since it's the first competition of the year, of going through peak week. And we're going to actually be talking a little bit about that today, because today's episode is on bodybuilding. Whoop, whoop. But now, for those of you that aren't bodybuilders, we want you to stay tuned, because there's some interesting points that we want to make about the lifestyle of bodybuilding, and even for those of us that are not bodybuilders and compete, that hopefully will give you some tips and some help to be able to just improve your own health.
Well, whether you get on stage or not, everybody is a bodybuilder. We're all building our bodies
one way or another.
Yeah, one way or another. So,
that's a good point. And so let's just jump into it. When we speak to doctors, or actually lately to a lot of groups, whether entrepreneurs and things, I usually come around to talking about the healthiest people in the world. And we've done a lot of research. We've studied the blue zones and all the great research studies that show the healthiest people on the planet. And if people live to be over 100 years of age, they're in a place called the blue zone with good quality of life, right? Not like the rest of us and stuff.
Right.
And they all have some cool things in common. And what's interesting is a lot of things they have in common are the same things that natural bodybuilders do. And so we're going to get into those things. So we'll talk about those and show examples of those to the doctors, to the entrepreneurs, and that. But to best understand it, we thought we would go back and talk about bodybuilding itself, and that there's really two different worlds of bodybuilding.
Absolutely.
And then we'll get into some of the things that natural bodybuilders do that really each of us that aren't natural pro bodybuilders can incorporate into our life to help us reach optimal health. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so bodybuilding's been around forever. They might not have called it bodybuilding, but way back, and you've seen all the way back to the Romans and times, and we went to Greece and we saw the great history there with the Olympics, and how bodybuilding was just something that they did. They realized it was important for their sport as far as athletics, or for the army and different things like that. And so the interest in building the human frame has been around. Even Socrates, came out with a great quote: "It's a shame to go through life and not seeing what the body can do as far as physical fitness and shape, because it's a God-given thing for us. And why not try to work and enjoy it at its fullest level? See what it's possible. See what it's capable of." And so it's been around for a long time as far as people wanting to sculpt the body, but really, since about the 70s, and then really big time into the 80s, the sport of bodybuilding just went nuts. And so for me growing up, it was just like, it was as big as the Olympics, as the World Championships in basketball, or Super Bowl. It was just, everyone knew the people in the sport growing up.
Yeah, for me, I think I was in junior high the first time I saw Mr. Olympia on TV, and they used to play it like on ESPN or something. It used to be broadcast that way, and so I remember watching it, and I remember watching. I'm not sure if it was Corey Everson or who it was, but I remember watching them on stage and just being. I was in awe. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, to see a woman that still looked very feminine, that also had muscle. And I fell in love at a very, very young age with bodybuilding.
And same here as far as seeing it growing up. And so there's still names that are real popular today that people know of, right? Everyone knows of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they hear that name.
Of course.
Right, and the original Hulk, and Lou Ferrigno, and people like that. Those are the ones that during the day everyone knew of, and they're still popular to this day. My health identity traits based on one of them named Frank Zane that I've talked about, and look him up, the guy's stud. Anyways, but that bodybuilding that we think of there, and that same group, that organization that Arnold and those were in, were part of bodybuilders that they don't do drug testing. And when Arnold was competing, steroids weren't illegal when he first started, and it was just what people did. They took lots of testosterone and that with their training because they could build a lot larger muscles. But then they banned steroids, and that organization is called the IFBB. That's the pro bodybuilders, where they don't test for steroids. And the amateur version is called the NPC, National Physique Committee. So NPC is the amateur, and then IFBB is the pro, and that's non-tested. They tried to test one year, and it was terrible because bodybuilders that take steroids and that don't know how to train naturally, and so they looked awful on stage, and then they quit testing. So that's that world of bodybuilding that most people think of. There's just giant guys, and a lot of people say, well, Hilary's a professional bodybuilder. And like, you don't look like a woman professional bodybuilder, because they think of the ones in the IFBB that are steroid users, not drug tested, and that look like men and sound like men and have a lot of problems because of the steroids. So there's that world of bodybuilding, and I think it gives the natural bodybuilders a bad rap, because most people think of bodybuilding as the steroid users. And that's really the opposite of what we believe in when we're talking about health. And then there's the other organization that Hilary competes in on the
so
natural side.
there's actually a number of different natural organizations that you can compete in. I choose the INBA, PNBA, and the reason I do is because I feel that they are the best at keeping a level playing field as far as testing goes, and they do WADA testing. So they do the same
What's WADA?
type of drug testing as the Olympics does. So World Anti, help me, because
World Anti-Doping
Association.
Yep. And so really it's just the group that, as Hilary said, tests the Olympics, and it's the best we can do. And the INBA, PNBA. INBA is the amateur version, just like the NPC is, and then the PNBA is the Pro Natural Bodybuilding Association that's drug tested. It's basically the Olympics of natural bodybuilding.
So when we talk about my my titles and talking about natural Olympia Masters champion, that is the pinnacle. It's the last show of the year, and the PNBA puts it on. They also accept the pro cards of other natural organizations. So once you get to the natural Olympia, that show is a lot larger. First of all, you have different competitors coming in throughout all of the world,
like
many countries.
37 countries in the last one.
So you're competing against other countries, and then you are also typically, more than any other show during the year, you're competing against other people from other natural organizations.
So basically, the thing that we want to do is just kind of make sure that people know there's two different worlds in bodybuilding. There's the non-drug tested, which now I don't know of a professional bodybuilder in the NPC or the IFBB that's not on steroids, whether it's bikini competitors, figure competitors, the men physique,
IFBB.
and all that.
There's
IFBB.
plenty of NPC, competitors
right.
that
amateur
probably,
version.
and that's not to say we know everyone, because we don't. Just understanding the human physique, it would be very difficult to achieve some of the physiques that you see on the IFBB stage without some type of performance enhancing drug. So that's, we have no firsthand knowledge, Douglas.
Lots.
But
and so,
anyways,
but the bottom line is that it's non-drug tested, and you can tell that with the body. So what we want is we want to be able to take the body to its ultimate level as far as shape and health, body fat percentage, and all that, but to its genetic potential. And what steroids do is take you past your genetic potential. And what that does is also puts extra strain past your genetic potential on your organs in your body and the things that will actually make it so that you don't live as long as healthy of a life. And so that's why we're not for the steroid usage.
Yeah, for sure. It all boils down to long-term health. What is... what are we doing to prolong our lives and to live the healthiest we can for the longest amount of time, right? So
absolutely.
That's the goal. And
so let's just kind of jump to it. We want to separate the difference between the drug world of bodybuilding and the natural side. And I do want to make one comment because I'm really big on the natural side, but we have a lot of friends, in both sides and know people. And I have one of my trainers that was with me for years that competed in the IFBB, still competes today. And the deal is that if you're competing and you're saying, hey, I'm competing at stuff's non-drug tested, I take different things, but that's what I've chosen to do. I actually have a respect level for them because they're just speaking. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going about it. It's not our choice, but it's their choice. It's really more the ones that really get my gander up quite a bit are the ones that maybe come over to the natural organization and they're still taking steroids, or people that are influencers and they have physiques and we're like, probably, take a few things, but they don't share with their audience. That's what they do. And they have programs that say, hey, do this program and you can be like me, when it's not true. So it's more about just being honest about what you're doing for your physique, and people can make the choice. And in the natural world, we just feel it's a better choice to reach optimal health. Is that a good way to put it?
Better.
All right, so let's take a look at it, and let's first start with some of the research, and we'll talk about, if you'll talk about what you do body fat wise.
Okay.
That there's a lot of research in longevity showing that the lower your body fat to a point, and we'll talk about that point, the healthier you are, the longer you live, the more powerful your immune system is, the better cognitive function you have, your ability to think and focus. And so there's a body fat percentage that you want to shoot for, and that's a part of bodybuilding, obviously, and it goes a little extreme at the last. But that body fat percentage, when you go above a healthy body fat percentage, it starts creating chemicals that affect your brain, that cause it to age prematurely, that puts pressure on the heart, that puts pressure on your organs, that allows the body to create chemicals that actually will completely disrupt your hormones and that balance in the body. So let's talk about body fat for men and women. And for men, the numbers are actually lower.
Right.
About 5% or so lower. Mm-hmm. And so if we're wanting to talk about the actual perfect numbers, okay, not
perfect numbers living everyday life?
Everyday life as far as fitness is concerned, what would you think?
As far as fitness is concerned, are you showing me something on your computer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fitness-wise, if we're talking about a fitness lifestyle, really healthy and super active, 15 to 17 for a woman.
For a woman.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
percent. And that's really
well.
good. Yeah, no, that
We're
is really good.
Top level fitness. Huh?
What would our government say is
19 to 21
healthy?
for
So
women.
19 to 21. So, that gives you kind of the range of
For women.
Yeah.
And then for men, we want to get down to about 10 to 12. So we're talking fitness levels. Men 10 to 12, women 15 to 17% body fat. Add about 3 or 4% to that. For men, about 15% for the government, saying for healthy, but we're talking about fit, right? Something that we know your immune system's still extremely strong, but guys, you're going to see some abs. Ladies, you're going to see some shape, some definition at that. And that's those body fat. And you're like, well, how do I find out my body fat? And there's many ways, but we're talking about body fat done by someone that uses a caliper, where they come and they pinch the skin and it gives them a number, and they pinch like 3 different places. These are the body fat percentages from skin calipers. It actually is usually a little bit higher if you stand on one of the machines and do the bioelectric impedance and that. It's usually about 4 to 5% higher. So if we're saying for women 15 and it says about 20 on a machine, like that you stand on that, you're probably about the same.
And something to keep in mind when you're talking about the body fat calipers is that honestly, from one person to the next doing the test, you could get different body percent differences. I cannot talk tonight. But not huge differences, but a percent or 2 or 3. So really, the point of that is to have the same human that does your body fat each time. Have them do it always. Don't go from one person to another person to another person to check your body fat, because the goal is to just see like the progression. So you want somebody that does it the same each time.
Yeah, so if it's off 2%, but it's off 2% each time, you're going to know if you're going up or down, right? And so that's a good point. So body fat's important, and I think the point today for just optimal health is find out your body fat percentage, and no matter what you use, like Hilary said, do the same thing every time, and you'll find out if you're going up or down.
Also, the DEXA body scan is a really great way to do that too, and a
Absolutely.
lot of people have access to something like that.
That's really good. So body fat number one, and if you don't have access to body fat calipers or even being able to get it done, another way to do it also is just with a tape measure.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to have your waist smaller than your hips. The largest part of your hips, smallest part of
your waist.
And you want it to be smaller is the easiest way to go about it in the waist. If not, every inch that your stomach measurement, waist measurement is higher than your hips increases the risk of disease 12 to 15%. So that's quite a bit.
That is quite a bit.
And so meaning your risk of getting a condition. And that's because body fat, especially in the stomach area, is really the hormone disruptor.
Right. And also that is also a great way to monitor your progress as well, is to do measurements. I'm a big fan of measurements when you're trying to change your body type.
And it's data. That's it. It's
Yeah,
all about data.
everything's about data, for sure.
If you can't track it, you can't manage
Yeah.
it, right? And so that's really, really key. So body fat percentage is something that's really important to understand. Now, just for the sake of this today, what do you get down to for stage? So when people see natural bodybuilders on stage with women, and they're pros, right? The highest level, whether it be, in your case in figure, which is Hilary's division. We'll talk about the divisions here in a minute. Whether bikini, what are you seeing for the people that win usually?
Okay, so Doug always does my body fat, so I have the same person doing it always, and we do a three place measurement.
Mm-hmm.
We do
Three sites, yeah.
3 sites. Sorry. So the back of the arm, the stomach, and mid thigh.
Yep.
So those are the 3 areas. Typically, when we step on stage anywhere from about 9% up to maybe 11%. Do we try each time to get as lean as we possibly can? Yes, we do, especially for the division that I compete in. So, 9 is ideal.
Yeah, I'd say 9, and it's once in a while you can eke it down a little bit for a woman, but you don't want to get lower than that. Really, it's unhealthy. For men, it's different than that. They can get down 2%, 3%, and get really, really lean. And so it's a different factor for men. If a man gets on stage at 2 to 3% body fat, or a woman 8 to 9, maybe 10% body fat, they're going to be in the running if their physique is balanced.
For sure.
That's usually the key that separates people in the bodybuilding world. First is, are they conditioned? Is their body fat where it
Are
needs
we
to
going to
be?
go through the different divisions?
Yep, we are.
Okay.
Okay, so basically the conditioning is major in that. If you come in, we've seen people coming in great condition. In other words, their body fat where it needs to be, and still be working on their physique as far as their muscles and that. But they win because they put the work in, they've learned how to diet. It is an art form to diet properly to get your body fat that low naturally, right? So the people in the
really
IFBB and those worlds, they'll be like at this point say, oh, we better start using diuretic, or we need to do
It is also an art
chemical.
form as far as that goes as well. I mean, let's be honest. One of the things that I dislike the most is when people talk about those that compete in the IFBB or NPC, or that choose to do steroids, that they somehow don't have a work ethic, when that is the furthest thing from the truth. Those people, their work ethic is gnarly, and they also, it's a work of art what they're able to do. The difference is that they also have performance enhancing drugs that can assist in what they're trying to accomplish, and in the natural world we do not. So we have to rely so heavily on our nutrition, and how, especially when you've done everything you can in season, and then you're in your peak week, and those last few days of peak week, it is imperative for a natural bodybuilder to really dial in, and it does become kind of a work of art what you're able to do. So.
Yeah, and it's an art form based on nutrition. It's being able to manipulate the body based on your carbs, proteins, fats, certain herbs and nutrients to act as diuretics
Yeah,
in
and
the
the
body.
way.
And the other way is better bodies through chemistry, that you do it through drugs. And so you're right. The athlete themselves are working their butt off in both. And
Yes.
the ones that take the steroids, sometimes it's easy. Oh, they're on steroids, that's why they look that way. No, they train like maniacs, and they eat.
And their nutrition is
usually
on
pretty
point.
on point. It's just that they use enhancing drugs. So I definitely want to make the point that they're not workaholics as they are. Most times they actually, in some cases, work more because
Yeah.
they can get a little more chemical derived energy. But the key is that it is both an art form, but one is a natural art form. So let's talk about the divisions so that people can understand it. We do have people come up a lot and say, I'd like to compete someday, and not knowing really what that means, right?
Yeah,
So,
we do. So I did want to just say one more thing about the whole nutrition factor, is that there's also things you do when Doug says it's an art form. There are things you do to make yourself, the way you eat as you're getting closer, to make yourself look bigger than you actually are. And we definitely take advantage of things like that. And so we'll go into that.
do you want me to mention that real quick? Then
That's
we'll go into
it's
divisions?
it's
Okay.
super cool. To me, it's super cool.
Yeah, so basically, we are able to use macronutrients to manipulate the body and as far as the size of the muscle to a degree. I mean, it's a little bit. It's like a half an inch here, but it makes
a
all the
massive
difference
difference.
on the stage. Yeah, and so if you think about it, proteins act more like a diuretic. Okay, because they're a little more acidic. They have a nitrogen bond to them. So only macronutrient, carbs, protein, fats have the nitrogen. So proteins are more of a diuretic, and carbos hydrate the body, carbohydrate. And what they learned, actually not in bodybuilding, they learned it in endurance running and sports, is they were able to take people and put them on a lower carbohydrate diet a few weeks before the event, okay, and deplete the muscles of the carbohydrates. And then right before the event, they load them. And since the muscles were deficient, they're like, man, we don't know if they're going to do that again. So they load up extra with the carbohydrates in the cell. So what that does is it volumizes, it creates additional volume in the muscle for a short period of time if you do it right and peak at the right time. And so right before a show, you'll load up with those carbs. And the hope is that you load up and get it to its peak before you go too far and you start
And then
getting
you
too
start
much.
spilling over.
And you start spilling over and getting, and actually looking, not as dialed in, not as shredded, not as what we call dry in the sport. And so that's where the art form comes in. So what we do is take advantage of it. So today, you're 3 days out before your show.
We are.
So what's your diet like today compared to tomorrow?
So today we are still high protein, lower carb. Our fat's going to remain about the same, pretty low. At this point, fat is low. And then tomorrow we will begin carb loading. So we'll reduce the amount of protein that we're consuming and start upping the amount of carbs. And we up the carbs by about 30 grams beginning tomorrow, but then we'll kind of watch the physique and see what it does. We have some traveling that we have to do and that kind of thing, so that can affect how you look. So we just watch the physique as we go, and we will gradually increase the carbohydrates quite a bit more than that. And then on Friday, the day before the show, we will keep doing that. We will get kind of a treat meal the night before, that is trying to do the same type of thing for the body.
And then what we'll do is either right before, Saturday morning, she'll compete Saturday, or right before she gets on stage, after carb loading, and hopefully got it right, we'll want to shock the system. Give it something that maybe is even a little harder to digest or has a lot of natural nitrates that increase blood flow to try to get vascular on stage. And so that's where
What we've learned with my physique is that as we get closer, I eat very little red meat in my daily diet, pretty much none. I don't eat red meat except very sparingly. And so what we've noticed about my physique is that stage day, competition day, is that if we can give me a little bit of red meat, my body really likes it, and those veins really start to pop after we've consumed it. So
it's almost a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
But so there is a lot to be said about the nutrition. Now let's go back to us normal people, okay, and going through life. It really is good sometimes to take in a little more carbohydrates than normal, and then lower it down and get the body used to having the muscles be more hydrated, and then actually want more hydration and taking them up and down, not from a water standpoint, but from carbs and proteins. And so there's some great things we do with our clients, obviously, to play with that. We have a client that is going on stage at the same time you're going on stage in London at the World Championship. So we're taking her at the same diet and that Hilary's on, and this is a entrepreneur. But then the last few days before she gets on stage, we're not going to really lean her out, and she needs more brain power because she has to speak in that. So we're actually going to switch over and do some nootropic work and some fatty acids so that we are loading her brain more than her muscles before on the stage.
Perfect.
So she'll be ready. But anyway, so let's go through divisions, okay? So these are the divisions that are for men and women, and they're judged differently and based on the division it's in. So you'll understand that as we get going. And so why don't we start with the men? Okay. So with the men, there's a division that's pretty new. This became extremely popular. And that's where men don't wear the little bodybuilding shorts. They wear board shorts, the longer shorts. And
Men's
it's
physique.
Called men's physique. And in men's physique, they're not judging the quads, the legs, because they're covered. And it's more of like a beach body, would you say? Like the ultimate beach body.
Yeah.
And it's one that I think most people look at with men and say, wow, that's, the guys look at it and women look at it and think that's probably the ultimate body if you're not into the bodybuilding scene. It's really fit, really lean. Very proportionate, and so that is the men's first division called men's physique. And I think both of our sons have competed in that, but Braven, that's his main division. And then the next division for the men,
Classic physique.
it's called classic physique, and that's where it's more classic because it's more like some of my favorites back then, Frank Zane and that type thing, where they did real classic poses. They had very special poses.
Classic poses, and you're back to not exactly the Speedo. It's like it's almost like volleyball shorts, that kind of look, if you think about it, for the men.
Tiny whities type thing.
Except not, kind of. Anyways, and they have individual routines that they perform. In men's physique, they do a T-walk, but they do not do
they just come in, do turns, and do that, but they don't do routine. In classic physique, do a routine, and they judge the routine higher than any other division for men because it really is classic, and it's about the form and the beauty of bodybuilding. And they do special poses they don't do in any other division, some of the famous Arnold poses and things like that. So that's classic. I love that division, by the way. And then there's the men's bodybuilding.
Typically in classic, the man's physique in classic is a little larger than it is from the men's physique. So classic is just a bit larger than that. Same type of proportion, except now we're involving the glutes and the quads and the calves, of course. And so it's an overall more symmetrical look.
And they do judge on symmetry for that. And then the top division for men is just called bodybuilding, right? Open bodybuilding. And it's actually not so much about the symmetry like classic physique. It's pretty much about how big you can get and how shredded. Now, there are some people that aren't the largest that win it because they get more shredded. And it is a balance of the muscles, but really just large. And that's what most people think of when they think of bodybuilding with men. But there's the different divisions for men. And let's switch over to women. The first division for women.
Okay, so I'm going to go through them kind of quickly, and then I'll hit each one of them. So when we're starting off, we're talking about bikini. That's the perfect beach body. Except super, super lean in the natural world. It is also in the non-tested world, but when you're talking about natural world, you're talking about more of a petite physique. So I feel like for bikini, it's more of a petite physique, but super lean, but not a whole lot of muscle separation, really.
You're able to see the muscle.
Yeah, you're able to see the muscle, but we're not trying to see striations or anything. So anyways, it goes to, I'm going to fit wellness in the last. So it goes bikini, figure, physique, bodybuilding, and they've just come out with another class, wellness. And wellness is still within the natural bodybuilding world. It's still trying to find its place a little bit. I would say it goes either between bikini and figure, or it goes between figure and physique. It's kind of an interesting way. With wellness, they're looking for a little unproportioned as far as the glutes and quads go.
A little bit larger.
In that division, they're looking for really large quads and glutes with a little bit more of a narrow top. You still have to have muscle definition, of course, that's always very important. Whereas in figure, what I compete in is it is mostly about shape, symmetry, and muscle definition. But we're not looking for high striations, okay? We're just looking for really symmetrical from top to bottom and side to side.
I'm a little bit biased towards that division. Like if the man, I'm biased a little bit toward the classic physique because it's the perfect symmetry that you would think of, like the David, that type thing. And for women in figure, it is the perfect figure. So you can have people that are smaller, larger, builds in that, but if they built their body proportionately from the shoulders and the hips and the legs, and you look and it's perfectly symmetrical, showing the muscle, like you really have to show good muscle in that division, and those are the ones that will win. And it's supposed to be where you see the separation of the muscle, but it's not striated. And sometimes, judges, they're always like, oh, they're striated, and they might judge a little bit wrong because they'll give maybe some extra points to people that are more shredded in figure, and that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that perfect figure shape.
It's like the perfect balance of, in my opinion, I'm a little partial to figure, but it's like this perfect balance of muscle to femininity. So anyways, so
after that, let's say what wellness.
Okay, so then we did wellness.
So bikini, figure wellness,
and then there's physique, which is
women's
physique, where you are looking for striations. In physique, we are looking for a lot of the same symmetrical look as figure, but really, really defined, separated muscle.
And in physique, they'll do bodybuilding poses. In figure, it's more symmetry. And physique, they do a routine, like in classic physique with men, and they're looking for the bodybuilding poses. They're doing the back double bicep and all those types
so
of
for
things.
figure, we do, everyone does a T-walk or an I-walk, one or the other, and then they do their quarter turns where they're being compared to everybody on stage. And then only some people do an actual routine to music. So the women that do a routine to music are physique and bodybuilding. And then for men, it is the classic physique and bodybuilding. Yeah. So those are the only ones that actually have their own routine done to music. And then those are also the ones that do the actual bodybuilding poses. Figure, you just do quarter turns. You never do an actual bodybuilding pose, and you don't do that in bikini either, or in wellness.
Right, and so then the last division after women's physique is women's bodybuilding.
Is women's bodybuilding.
It's the exact same as the men's bodybuilding. They're trying to get as big as they can,
muscles
as you can. You just don't see the really large and enormous size with women in natural bodybuilding because it's actually impossible to get too big in natural bodybuilding.
Right.
And so it's really kind of cool to see that. But that's the different divisions, and I think it's really neat because a lot of times, even if people don't get on stage, we've had a lot of clients, and you hear people all the time, I want to train to be like a bikini competitor or figure or bodybuilding, and they train for that just because it's a way of training. You have to exercise different, your routine's different.
And also what's kind of interesting and cool to me is those people that do it as a goal to step on stage, not to perform or to compete forever and to become a professional, but to set it as a fitness goal. Mm-hmm. And so their goal is to get on stage one time, and they do it, and I love that for them.
Yeah, because you'll come to shows like this weekend at the special show to help or to recognize cancer patients that survived or even ones that passed away that gave a good fight. At this show, they'll have the division. You'll see some people on stage like, why are they on stage? Maybe they're not, like at a top bodybuilding level, but their goal is just to get there. And some of them lost 50 pounds, 70 pounds, and even though they're not in bodybuilding shape, you would think by definition, they set that goal, and we really love seeing them. I
am a fan of that.
Yeah, and then they'll switch over to the pro show, which then those are the ones that do it full out. So that's bodybuilding, the divisions of bodybuilding, the different groups, the NPC, IFBB, non-drug tested, and the IMBA, PMBA, drug tested. And there are other natural organizations. It's just we are really partial to this one because of the testing. And there's been 2 or 3 at least times that Hilary, over the years, in the last 7-8 years, to where she took second in a competition, later to find out that the person that won tested positive for performance enhancing drugs, and so they had that taken away from them. So it happens in natural bodybuilding, and sometimes they miss it. Sometimes people get through, and you just have to deal with that. But it is part of the sport. But at least you're on the closest to level playing field as possible.
Right. And also, when you choose to do bodybuilding, you're choosing to do a subjective sport, which means you are, you're allowing people's opinions to factor into your winning or losing. It's not I scored a basket, so I scored more points and threw a basket, I'm gonna win. So when you choose bodybuilding, you just have to be open to the fact that you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some, and it's subjective. So
absolutely, and that's why I would never do that sport. My sport was powerlifting, right? If I lift more than you, I win. End of story. And
the fact that it is subjective means that losses can hurt really bad, and wins can also be questionable. So losses can hurt no matter what, but it is interesting.
It is, and that also leans to a point I wanted to make, and that is that when you do something because you love it, you can get past those things. And so, in other words, in business, as entrepreneurs, we love the chase, and we love what it's about. You always hear about the lions and the chasing the gazelles and all those types of things. And half the time they do it and they don't, catch their prey, but they just go back. Well, they love the hunt. They just love the hunt. And you have to love this sport, or else it will get to you, because you're going to be like, wow, I should have won that and I didn't, and get all hurt because it's a subjective sport. But if you love it, you're upset in the moment, but you're able to say, hey, I came in, I was the best, I have been. It's about bettering you each time.
Yeah.
Forward.
For myself, bodybuilding is something that I love deeply. It also has given me the best lifestyle to do all of the things that I want to do. I love to eat healthy, but I also love to indulge in some foods that aren't so healthy. I love to exercise, and I love to stay fit. I love to be active, and I love to, be able to work my body and get it to its best shape possible. But I also love a little off season where, aesthetically, we're not so concerned about body fat and stuff. So for me, bodybuilding has offered the best route for me to still enjoy foods that I want to enjoy, and still have a fitness level where I can be active the way I want to be, and then also aesthetically look the way that I want to. So.
Absolutely. And so a lot of questions that we get, I'm going to fire at you really quick.
Okay.
And then I'm going to try to bring everything around here at the end for everyone. So. Hilary is a professional bodybuilder. What is your weight and body fat in the off season versus in season?
Okay, so it's varied throughout the years. What we've found works best for me is to keep my weight within about 10 to 12 pounds. I'll even say 15, but really about 10 to 12 pounds of stage weight. So in the off season, I will gain anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. The goal is hopefully for some of that to be muscle, because the goal in the off season is to build muscle. But a lot of that is also body fat.
Okay, so that's the range there. Tell us a typical day diet without going into a lot of detail. What's a typical day diet? Not peak week, but let's say a few weeks ago, you're kind of getting ready for a show, and what is your diet look like for the day?
Pretty easy. So in the morning, it's always, every meal is centered around getting enough carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and kind of keeping it balanced throughout the day. And so for the morning, I like to do Greek yogurt with oats, and I do some berries in it, and that keeps me, gives me the right amount of protein, right amount of carbs, right amount of fats. Eventually I'll work in egg whites, and then get rid of the Greek yogurt, of course. but that's something I like to eat, and it's tasty, so we do that. Then breakfast, that was breakfast.
Yep.
So lunch, again, same type of thing. I look for where I'm going to find my protein source and where I'm going to get my carbohydrate source. And so lunch a lot of time is a salad with a protein. And then we can kind of play with the ingredients in the salad. You know, we can get a little bit more fat when we're not super close to stage. We can add some olive oils. We can do some feta cheese. We add all the vegetables.
Nuts.
Yeah, so typically that. So if it's not a salad for lunch, it's rice and some type of protein. We're talking chicken, ground turkey, or fish. Those are kind of my protein choices.
So breakfast, we have the yogurt, Greek yogurt with berries and oats in it. At lunch, we have a salad with chicken or something, and depending on in-season, off-season, adding a few extra things. And what about between breakfast and lunch? Any type of snack?
Rarely do I do a morning snack. I do an afternoon snack. That ranges anywhere from a protein bar to a protein shake, that kind of thing. And then dinner is also lean protein, carbohydrate, and vegetable. Pretty easy. I like roasted vegetables. We'll do baked chicken and maybe sweet potatoes. So I'm really easy. If I'm making a meal and it's going to be for family, there are different recipes that I use. Like I'll do like a turkey chili that I make. We do chicken and rice. I'm trying to think of all the different recipes we make. I'll do spaghetti.
With like whole wheat.
Yeah.
So like that. Okay. So really basic. That's a really common day in your life and in our life, for the most part. You know, having that healthy breakfast for like me, whether it's oatmeal or a shake, and then a salad at lunch, and that's a really good thing is to pick one meal a day to have a salad, and lunch is usually the one that you can get it in. Because on the road, you hit the subways or the different places and get the salads. And then at dinner, having that balance between a good carb, vegetables, then whether it's rice and protein, anything like that, you're able to play with it a bit. So it's really not, I want to say it's not rocket science because it's science, but it's just a consistent, easy way to go. So that's great as far as your daily. And
we do we do tacos, we do hamburgers. We just always make them healthier.
Right. And so that's a day with your food. Supplementation.
I have a custom pack that I take. I also have a drawer full of supplements. I'm always taking female. I always take EFA. I take a lot of nootropics for my brain. And then I take Muscle RX.
So basically, there's supplements you take that are the basics based on your blood and that you're talking about, your custom pack and those things.
Yeah.
And those are the basic need supplements, and they help reduce the risk of disease, make sure all of your puzzle of your body, that everything's filled in, all the pieces. But then there are things called ergogenic supplements that help you perform at a higher level, help you build muscle a little bit faster, burn fat a little bit more, help you perform better. And so what are some of those supplements?
So those are like Muscle RX.
Which has what?
That has creatine, it has my branched chain amino acids, it has glutamine. So all the things that my muscles need to repair and build. And then
right now you're on carnitine quite a bit to help burn fat.
Carnitine, yeah.
Yep. So there's those types too. So supplementation's a big part of it.
Yep.
And
water.
So
so water typically out of season, I try to get about 80 to 100 ounces. In season, it needs to be a gallon for sure, and sometimes more.
Yeah. Okay. So for those that are in or interested in the bodybuilding world, that kind of helps you understand the different groups, right? The NPC, IFBB, non-drug tested, the IMBA, PMBA, drug tested, and that lifestyle, the different divisions that are women and for men. Now, from the health standpoint, when we started, we talked about the healthiest people in the world, the blue zones and those things. And what does that have to do with bodybuilding? Well, all of the people that live to be over 100 in these areas around the world, one of the things is that they're very fit, they're very active, they move every day, they exercise every day, whether they're out lifting weights or not, is really the point is that they're moving and they're active and they're using their muscles in that. And so that's the bodybuilding lifestyle, exercising every single day and changing it up. But that's critical for health, right? And the nutrition of all these groups were whole foods and were clean, meaning that they didn't eat a lot of processed foods. And probably the one thing we've learned the most over the last probably 5 years is a lot of time diets went to, well, just get your macros right? If it fits your macros, it's eat so many calories, and it doesn't matter where you get them from as long as you stay under these calories. The intermittent fasting, a lot of people will do that. We're like, eat whatever in this window of time. All that is really bad, because what we've learned is the type of foods affect your health, especially your longevity. And just like the people live to be over 100, and in the natural bodybuilding world, the ones that do the best eat more whole foods. They're eating, even with the meats, they're eating the chickens, the turkey, the fish, right? Not the heavily processed meats. They're having lots of vegetables as the core of that, the good whole foods, and not so much all of the synthetics and the high processed foods. And the third factor with the healthiest people in the world was the mindset, that they're happy people. They're people that are committed to daily improve themselves, to say, hey, I'm looking down the road and I want to be living the lifestyle so I can keep enjoying life. And that's really the bodybuilding lifestyle, is like, hey.
Maybe not as much this week. I'm a
Peak
little
week.
on during peak week.
But it's the idea of respecting the human frame, respecting what God gave you, and looking forward to just working to be the best you can, and being happy in the moment, but maybe not fully satisfied, wanting to get a little bit better, but being thankful and blessed for what you have.
For sure. I also wanted to, I wholeheartedly agree. I also wanted to add just something, because I get this question a lot and you didn't ask it. So how long does it take to get ready for a show? So a lot of people wonder, when people say they've started their prep. I'm in my prep season. So a prep season, typically, if you're somebody that competes constantly and you have year in, year out, the least amount of prep would be like a 12-week prep. That's pretty standard for somebody that's in really good fitness shape. So there's also, it goes to 16, it goes to 20, and then typically, if you're somebody that's never competed, you would need a full year of, how would you say that? Just a full year committed to improved diet and improved exercise. So a full year of just keeping those, like habitually learning those things. And then you could go into when you would actually prep for a show, because training changes when it's time for a show, and it changes each 4 weeks as we get closer, because we typically do about a 12-week prep when it's time to compete. So, is that something that needs to be looked at?
No. And so really, I think that 12 weeks leading to this first show, right? But then Hilary's in season, and some bodybuilders only compete a couple times a year. Hilary competes more than any other natural bodybuilder I've ever seen, and we've been in the sport a long time, meaning she's on stage 5, 6, 7 times a year sometimes, and most bodybuilders are on only a few times a year. So after this 12-week cut, getting ready for the first show, she only has 2 weeks to get ready for World Championships, and then maybe 3 weeks, then maybe another 4 weeks before the next show, or different. So in season, she's got to stay in shape and keep going and really plan for the next show. But it's a good point that it's something that, hey, it's a 3-month full-out commitment usually to get ready for that first show, and it is a commitment. And
and you're
very serious.
Yeah, the type of training you do, type of eating you do changes from typically each 4 weeks, and it changes from lifting heavy to lighting not as heavy, increasing reps, that kind of thing. And then also, as you get closer to stage, obviously you have to increase your cardio. So
absolutely. So let's bring it, full circle again. We talked about the healthiest people in the world, talked about bodybuilding, the non-tested, the tested, the lifestyle that you could live to really be optimally healthy, and the benefits of it. And I think the take home that we train and tell the doctors from stage, tell the CEOs, tell the athletes, and everyone is, look, it's about the consistency with the commitment to a healthy lifestyle. And that commitment needs to be that you train consistently, exercise on the daily for about an hour a day, truly, to give it that consistently, eat a healthy diet, mainly based on whole foods, supplement based on what your body needs, do the blood work, do the Nutrient RX program or some program, to be able to find out what you need, take those supplements, and then you take the ergogenic supplements, the ones that help you to train, to recover faster and those types of things. and most importantly, have that mindset. And it's just a
make
mindset
it
commitment.
enjoyable, because it can be so enjoyable. In season or out of season, being healthy can be something that you look forward to. And it's fun to make a recipe and to see how healthy you can make it and still keep it delicious.
Absolutely. And so
fun.
I think that really the one comment that I get real often is, well, hey, you just don't enjoy food. You know, you don't enjoy these cheap foods, and I love them. And my comment back is, I probably love those types of treat foods more than most people. And what I mean by that is, when you limit the things that you love, right? And Hilary loves food, but because she goes a period of time without some of those things, when she has that pastry, when we're in London, I guarantee there's going to be some pastries on the table. We're going to Paris afterwards, right?
Croissants are my jam.
Absolutely. And she's going to enjoy them at a higher level because she doesn't have them all the time.
I will say there is something there is something very special about your first meal after you've competed that tastes so amazing. And there's something about that whole sacrificing, what you want now for something better in the future.
Absolutely. So if you really love different foods, go for a while without them. I'm talking about the treat foods, right? Once you know if you eat a whole bunch of, it's probably not the healthiest for you. And then when you do have them, and now special occasions instead of every day, you're going to savor that and love that even more. So we're not talking about cutting all these things out for life. We're talking about enjoying them even at a higher level, but in their right place. And that's really one of the cool benefits of this lifestyle, is that we do really love those moments. But you work for them.
Absolutely.
That's the way it should be. So, hey, thanks again for joining us. Let us know how much you like this about bodybuilding. This one's
a little different.
This is a little different. It's more of our passion, so this might be one for just for us. But let us know what your thoughts are on this subject. And we'll look forward to hearing your comments for future podcasts. And for now, this is Miss Olympia, Hilary.
Natural Olympia. And this is Doug, the Formulator.
That was really good. Keep chewing.